George drives over Gobert. It's gone with 0.8 of a second left to give the Thunder a 1-point lead.
Russell Westbrook, Paul George, each with over 40 in that double overtime win versus Utah. And check out this full list of teammates that have done that. Look familiar? Russell Westbrook a few different times with Kevin Durant. They seem to have that same energy now with Paul George. On that note, let's welcome in Eric Horn from the Oklahoman. Eric, after Paul George hit that game winner against Utah, Billy Donovan opened up about PG's MVP candidacy. Explain what Donovan's biggest point was as far as Paul George's MVP this year.
Billy Donovan said nobody's doing it on both ends of the floor the way that Paul George is doing it right now, and I tend to agree with Billy Donovan. I get spoiled that I get to watch this guy play every night. Billy Donovan said he can't speak for the other guys in the league right now in terms of saying, is Giannis Antetokounmpo doing what Paul George is doing on both ends? Is James Harden? But Billy Donovan gets to watch him every night. I get to watch him every night, and I think that he's right. I think that Paul George is the best two-way player in the game right now.
And also Russell Westbrook shooting just 26% from three-point range this year. We've heard that over and over again. But he hit a season-high 6 threes in Thursday's win. He scored over 40 in his last 2 games. Is there a sense from Russ that the Thunder, that his shot, it's coming back around and his scoring is getting back to where it's been in the past?
That hasn't really ever been a concern for the Thunder this season. They're more concerned with him playing the game that he's been playing all season. Now, he obviously needs to shoot better and shoot better percentages, particularly going into the playoffs where teams' rotations are going to shorten and they're going to be better players on the floor for longer minutes. But Russell's biggest concern is just playing the game the way he's played all season, getting guys involved, getting Paul George to be the #1 scoring option, playing with the confidence he is right now. And Russell's been doing that all year. Russell's also been busting his tail on defense as of late. He played really great defense last night against Utah. He had a lot of hustle in that game, so much hustle that he ended up fouling out. But to see Russell shoot the ball better in these past few games is promising for the Thunder, but that's not their main concern, even though he has to shoot better percentages.
Yeah, Eric, I agree with you. I'm not really worried about Russell shooting. I know it's going to come. He's going to play the game. My question is, will his decision-making still be sound like he's shown us now, letting Paul George be Paul George? And secondly, Dennis Schroeder's now is starting to find his stride. Is Russell really comfortable now, like, I got to give up a little bit for the betterment of the team?
No, I think you've seen more of that throughout the season, 3D, and I think that Russell wholly understands that as well. This is a guy who's battled some injuries this season. He came into the season with a knee injury. He turned 30 in November. He's got twins now, in addition to a young baby boy. He's got more on his shoulders and on his plate on and off the court than he's ever had in his life. So I think he's at a point in his career where it's okay for him to give up some of those reins. It's okay for Paul George to be the #1 guy. It's okay to get off the ball and let Dennis Schroeder facilitate offense. And I think nobody more than Russell Westbrook understands what's best for this team.
Eric, Caron Butler here. Can you just talk a little bit more about how Russ and Paul George been able to coexist so well? Is it a personality thing? Is it a respect thing? What is it? Because I played there in OKC, and I seen that it was pretty tough at times for him to coexist with individuals. So why has this been such a seamless transition for him?
Caron, you being here with Russell and Kevin and then understanding how dynamic that relationship was and still having some of the roadblocks that they had in terms of ball sharing, I think Russell's taken from those experiences wholeheartedly. I think he understands that Paul George is a guy who's in the prime of his career that needs the ball in certain situations. I think the experience from playing with Carmelo Anthony last year also helped Russell Westbrook going into the season, understanding that, those guys need the ball in certain situations. And frankly, Russell's just a more mature, older player at this time in his career. He's accomplished a ton of individual accolades. I think it's a timing and an understanding that, this is this guy's time to lift this team to this level, and I've got to do some other things. So I think Russell's reached a level of maturity where he understands what this team needs in the time it is right now.
Kings Thunder, 8 o'clock start. Should be another good one. Of course, the Thunder coming off that double overtime game against the Jazz. Going to be a tough one to see them bounce back again 2 nights in a row. Eric Horn from the Oklahoman, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Good
Thanks
stuff,
again,
E.
Eric.
Thanks a lot. Short turnaround, man. We got to get it. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get it.
So speaking of which, fellas, all right, looking at the Thunder and all of the effort they had to exert to get that win against the Jazz. Now they face a Kings team, didn't play last night. Very young Kings team. Does Sacramento come into OKC with a bit of advantage because of that? Fresh legs?
Fresh legs, young mind, maybe a tad bit hungrier just because they've never been there before.
Fighting for a playoff spot?
Exactly. So they have maybe a little more extra to fight for. But with that being said, OKC is saying, well, we've improved. Paul George and Russ are playing at a high level. They have a training camp together. We still have big fella Adams down low playing great basketball. Jeremy Grant, Ferguson. So OKC from top to bottom, in my opinion, have shocked a lot of us because defensively we knew the pieces were there, but they didn't show it. They haven't got Andre Roberson back 100% yet. So that's another defensive-minded guy. Once he gets a part of the mix, it's going to be very great for their defense.
Hardest remaining schedule, OKC. They have it in the association. And looking at the sound bites for the last 3 post-game interviews, Paul George continues to address that. So that means one thing. That's a challenge that they accept with open arms. And another thing is this is a second in of a back-to-back, and it's at home. So they didn't have to travel. Right. You was able to sleep in your own bed, coming off that momentum booster of, PG going to the paint, float over Gobert. Like, you feed off that energy. And now Russell Westbrook is like, you know what, I fouled out early. Even though we got the quality win, I felt like I got to be better. And those guys are coming in, marching, trying to play their best basketball going into the playoffs.
So every year we get to this point in the season, past the All-Star break, and we look out west, say, what team can challenge the Warriors? It seems like the Thunder, they play great defense. They have their identity now where it seems as if Paul George is the closer. Russell Westbrook averaging a career high in assists at over 11 a game now, 3rd straight year averaging a triple-double. Are they the top team in the West to contend against the Warriors if you get to the Western Conference Finals?
So dangerous with the level that PG-13 is playing at. Russell Westbrook is going to be, reckless on the offensive end of the floor in a good way, especially in the playoffs. And then defensively, he's going to take that challenge and try to impose his will.
Jeremy Grant, Steven Adams, and Tough Juice, stay with me on this one. We always talk about role players. Well, guess what? It's Paul George and Russell Westbrook's role to be super. Like as much as he's supposed to be a rebounder, he's supposed to be a screener. Well, they're all-stars, right? Yeah. And they get paid max money, right? Well, they have to play max basketball. So as long as they continue to do that with the rest of the growth of the rest of the team, yes, you wouldn't be surprised them giving OKC or Denver, whoever it is, in that Western Conference final run for their money.
Yeah. Especially when you say all-star, all-NBA caliber,
yes,
MVP caliber.
So why should we be surprised if this team is facing Golden State in the Western Conference final or what have you? Because those two guys have to play like all NBA guys along with the improvement of all the other role players that we say they have.
So we'll keep our eyes on the Oklahoma City Thunder. We also are keeping our eyes on the Lakers, Not looking good right now against the Pelicans. No Anthony Davis.
What?
He's chilling in street clothes, right, with that sore shoulder. Check Diallo with 12 points, leading the Pelicans. Kyle Kuzma doing the most he can, finishing at the rim, but it's the Pelicans ahead in the second quarter.
I never really talk about officiating or anything like that, but just rude and arrogant. You aren't able to talk to them throughout the course of a game, and it's like, how do you build that relationship with officials? So, and it's not even that call. Like it's just who he is on that floor. It's pretty frustrating, and I'm probably gonna get hit, but honestly, I don't really say anything. I'm pretty quiet guy to myself, but it's one of those things where you can't voice your opinion, you can't have a conversation with someone that's officiating the game, and you're getting attacked. It's pretty sad.
Chris had similar comments about Foster last year. Do you feel
that's another thing. Last year in the postseason, in the Western Conference Finals, I think he officiated a couple of our games, and it's lingering, and it's something that has to be looked at for sure.
You feel like it's a personal issue?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it's personal. For sure. Like, I don't think he should be able to even, officiate our games anymore, honestly.
James Harden referring to Scott Foster, and according to Shams Charania, James Harden has to pay for those comments. He said, look, I expect to get hit in the wallet, $25,000 for criticizing one Scott Foster. The reigning MVP also out for tonight's game against the Golden State Warriors, set to tip off at 8:30. And so it's going to be a tough one for the Rockets to face the Warriors without the reigning MVP, James Harden. Let's welcome in Kelly Iko who covers the Rockets for The Athletic. James Harden, he was game time decision, out for this one, but really it didn't seem like there was a specific moment in which he got hurt against the Lakers. So when did he get hurt? What happened with his neck injury?
Coach D'Antoni said that he got hurt. He got hit in practice, and the next day his neck was kind of sore, and he also experienced some flu-like symptoms. So they thought that the best thing tonight was just hold him out, get some rest, and recuperate for next week's games.
Well, last year, Chris Paul was able to play at an MVP level when James Harden was hurt or was out. Have those expectations changed a bit for Chris Paul? I know he suffered through his own injuries so far this season and hasn't necessarily seemed like he's been 100% at any point.
I think Chris would be the last guy that you would want to tell that he's, his game has kind of declined. And after coming back from the injuries, his game has started to pick up a bit. He's looking more like the player they saw last season and kind of the all-star guard that they need to stagger with James Harden and run the offense. And you're seeing as the games are heading towards the playoffs, he's looking more and more fresh, getting some spring under his legs and, shooting the ball much better than before.
Speaking of looking fresh, is that velvet you have on? Is that velvet?
It's not players only, but, I have to do a little something.
I like that. And one last thing, my earpiece, you sound like Biggie Smalls a little bit, too. Has anyone ever told you that? Huh? Come on now.
Hey, yeah.
I like that. Okay, all right. Now back to the good stuff. Now, with all this with James Harden, is this something that he could use, the Rockets could use? Because let's face it, until they really get their mojo going on both ends of the floor, we're not going to take them serious of getting back to the Western Conference Finals.
I think the problem with that is they would prefer to play the Warriors 82 times a season because, as you can see, this is the game that they get up the most for, they have the most focus for. They feel like they're the biggest rivals. And being a veteran team, you kind of don't want to go through the drags of the regular season. You want to play the Warriors. You want to skip to the playoffs, but you have to play during the season. And you're seeing that for them, this kind of the game where they have to, turn everything up a little bit more. But they have a will and a desire, even with the injuries, even with the slow start, that when they get things together and they can gel, that they don't care the seating and the standings, they're just going to be able to play.
Caron Butler here. What are you looking forward to seeing from the Rockets in particular tonight without James Harden out there? Because I know point of emphasis, let's face it, to keep the streak going, to keep it alive. And now you see the team as a whole out there being able to be the best possible version of themselves. What are you looking forward to seeing out of them?
The defense. Last season they were in the top 10 in defense and defensive rebounding, and this season they're, I think, 25th in defensive rating, and they're last place giving points in the paint and 28th in rebounding. And for a team that has championship aspirations, you're not going to get there with those kind of rankings. So I'm looking to see, a tough crowd on the road. You came after an emotional loss. How do you bounce back? You're playing against the best team in basketball for the last couple of years. Now you're seeing a new dimension with DeMarcus Cousins. How do you handle that? Are you going to, step to the challenge even without James Harden, or are you going to fold and run? So I'm looking for that.
Kelly Iko from The Athletic. I think we have a new nickname for you, and I think it's Biggie Velvet.
Ooh,
Kelly, clear, man.
Are you accepting that?
Baby,
Because I think
Velvet
it's
Jones. There it is.
Put the stamp on it. Put the stamp on it.
I like your style, bro.
I love it. And you
Thank
put
you.
in there
Keep
players
with it.
only, baby. There you go.
Thank you for your
Got to.
time, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Good stuff.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so much happening with the Rockets right now, but James Harden being out for tonight's game against the Warriors, I think it's a good litmus test to see where Chris Paul is. We know what he's been for his career, but we haven't really seen what his capabilities to the fullest extent this season because James Harden has been on this run, because Chris Paul has been hurt.
Yeah, the game is still the same. They're going to run a lot of pick and rolls and having Capella back. Tough juice, he's going to roll to the basket. It's guys like right there, it's Eric Gordon. Is he more animated tonight? What I mean by that, Chris, is is he looking for more shots? Are they running more offense for him? Does he get more opportunity to run the pick and roll knowing that there's no James Harden tonight? So that's why I agree with Kelly. Defensively, I want to see, do they still lock down? And you still have Chris Paul on the floor, so the ball still will be in someone's hands that knows how to facilitate.
Karan, do you like the way that they handled the Scott Foster situation? It seems like, look, James Harden is not exactly the most vocal guy as far as superstars are concerned. So to hear him voice his opinion on that, take the fine for his team and his teammates, and Chris Paul also got a tech that he felt he didn't deserve in the net game. Do you feel like that was the right way that they handled that?
Yeah, listen, when a quiet individual talks, everyone should listen. And I felt like he did a service to his team and to himself by, stepping out and saying and talking about some things that he wasn't comfortable with. He addressed it. He got hit. And like he said, I know I'm going to get hit. He got hit. It was coming. It was warranted. But at the same time, it may have been a lot of truth to what he was saying. And I think it's something that has to be addressed and just, reviewed and looked at. But most of all, I love collectively how the two leaders of that ball team, one being the president of the NBA Players Association and Chris Paul, they both got texts in that moment. So you best believe it's going to be some momentum behind what was said and what was addressed.
Can I address something?
He gets his special camera.
My camera
3D right special camera time.
Hey, James Harden, I think Anthony Davis, am I missing anybody? Who else got fined pretty heavy recently? All you guys have been getting fined heavily. Send half the money to me and I'll talk for you and I can cut you a discount. There you go, I'm done.
Oh.
I'm done, that was it.
Put my camera
you got a better discount? Discount one.
Basically what he just said is he got drip for sale.
There you go. So just send the money to me and we all good. And it's going to be a discount. So instead of $25,000, it's going to $12,500. Cut it in half, baby.
That's a nice soft discount. I like your style, bro.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't want it all. You just want a little taste.
I think we need to move on from this before we get a call from upstairs like, hey, Chris.
Hey, look, upstairs, look, man. I take you to lunch and dinner, too.